Testing. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Hi,
now I can't.
how are you? Were you able to hear us the whole time?
No.
Okay. Oh, we recorded it. All right, so we're here. We're on the next item, which is your traffic concerns in Mystic at the intersection of Five Corners.
Five Corners.
Intersection.
There's now two in Groton.
So,
She did connect with Officer Afifi, and they had determined that they would look at this issue in September to possibly have something at the October meeting, because it does involve a lot, very busy area.
Yes, Chief. So I spoke briefly with Ms. Potter, and then the plan was after Labor Day weekend, she had several other residents in the area, so we can take a more holistic look at where she resides around 137 Millbank, I believe, and the surrounding all the way up to Newland.
can you just give us a quick summary of what the concern is? But this, I can.
You're wanting. This is going in and out. You wanting me to speak at this point?
You may, if you'd like, if you just want to voice your concerns and tell us what you were.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I live at the area of Five Corners, the circle where Noank Road and Water Street intersect. My main concern is with crossing Noank Road to reach the other side, to either reach Water Street or to reach the beginning of Noank Road. Noank Road is kind of funky. It cuts across where the Daniel Packer Inn is, and it intersects Water Street kind of at the bottom of the hill. Anyways, trying to make a left-hand turn from Latham Street onto Water Street is very hard, especially when you're walking. The problem is that we have a blind corner as traffic is coming from the left. So traffic is going, I guess you'd say, I guess it's west on 215. Anyways, coming from Mystic to Noank. That's where the blind corner is. You know, I'll sit at the stop sign there and look back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I have to gun it to get out of Latham Street to make a left. Really, really unsafe. We've lived here about 11 years now, and the traffic has gotten a lot worse in that period of time. You know, Mystic has become a lot more popular, and the speed limit there is 25. People go, I would say, on average 40, 45, sometimes 50 around that blind corner. I know there have been accidents there. I hear tires screeching. I hear people leaning on their horns all day long. So it's quite a problem for pretty much anyone trying to make a left there.
So I will point out some of we certainly are willing to consider this so we can have our traffic unit take a look. As I was pointing out, and I don't know if you were able to hear it before, to some of the folks, Route 215 or Noank Road is a state highway. That is regulated by the Department of Transportation, not by the local traffic authority. However, that being said, we certainly understand and appreciate your concerns. Maybe we can start at our level and see what we can do for an analysis and take a look, and maybe put together some reasonable recommendations that we can look at from both the town aspect and maybe forward some recommendations to the state for their consideration. Does that sound like a reasonable approach, at least to start?
Yes, I had heard, I think it was from Jeannie, that you were planning to do a traffic study. Is that correct?
Well,
I know it was going to be turned over to Officer Afifi to just talk about your concerns and then what some alternatives are.
Okay. My understanding was that I was supposed to meet with Mr. Afifi here at my home so he can actually assess the situation in person. We had a meeting set up, but he had to cancel, so I'd like to have that meeting.
Certainly, we can facilitate that, right?
So,
Yeah,
Ms. Potter, you had said after Labor Day weekend.
He said that you had indicated after Labor Day weekend you'd be available?
Yes,
Okay. So why don't we, maybe you can take that offline, you can
Yes,
go
sir.
direct with her, Officer Fifi, and we can set up that time, go from there.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so he'll be in contact with you, Ms. Potter, we'll wait to hear back after that, how your meeting went, and kind of develop a course of action following that.
that sounds great.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add to this. She also reached out to the district advisory committee on this. It's really,
Yeah.
this afternoon, I'm sure we'll talk.
Really. You know, it's just as a point of information, if you will, that the town manager and I both were on a meeting today regarding Mystic and a legislative initiative that's going on for Mystic and tourism, but part of that is the traffic and the concern. This as well. So the next item is the 2024-764 military highway speeding concerns.
So I've lived on military highway for years. My family has owned my house since 1969. Plenty of times to come in and out that driveway justified. Mr. Bird, have you driven military?
Reasonably well.
I'm sure that all the policemen. It's very tricky. We have a shared driveway of 3 houses. When we come down our driveway leans to the left.
Can you kind of orient me to which part of the road?
Okay, so if you start at the traffic light by Grove Avenue, right there, you're heading down towards the The first signs you will see is drives. And more recently, we've gotten this. But we are on the right as you go towards the base. There's Mr. Malik's house, which is not on our driveway, but it's right next door.
I'm sorry.
So heading towards the base, we're on the right side. First line curve. There's a house that's been built since Mr. Malik doesn't share our driveway, right at the base of our. And then we have 3 houses that come down and have turn to the left. Driveway off the property here towards the left. So we are turning left. So any time of day, really, more treacherous during rush days, anytime, because we have no idea what's. So we have asked about this. I've been involved. And more recently, we've got people in it. We've had 1 death on the road, had various
that?
car accidents. It was 2008, motorcycle and a car came around the corner. I don't think I've ever read what was, but there was an article in the Day years back, unsolved traffic accidents, and it was listed in there. It was very interesting. So
I don't know.
we more recently had a early June car accident. But the Gullicksons who live at the bottom, who actually in this spearheaded. They called it a car hit the guardrail on total. We have it when they speed on that road. So really, I'm here to find out what was the result of and any chance we could get speed limit lowered to 25. It's 25 for the bridge and 30 going. And would it really make any?
We just changed that speed limit.
And is that a paper? I know it's a collector.
Military highway. So, and this is, and certainly refer to this, Joel, as your email, but it's a traffic unit speed study. It does indicate there was concerns, there was what indicated that there was, study showed 69% of motorists were traveling above the 35 miles. Enforcement, and so this is what, Lieutenant Linda, you can speak to this, we can put this out to control to direct the reference between 7 and 9 a.m. and 24. Those are probably the time that you're talking about, ma'am, with.
Well, they are, at night after about. You really get some people. I don't have it in the summer, unfortunately, I don't have to do that. Ellison's who lived at the bottom. House driveway were right on the road. They saw it, heard it.
Were
And
there,
often calls, rushed out to help.
let me ask you this, are there recommendations that you have in addition, obviously enforcement is something that you undertake, but do you have any other recommendations that you'd like to see happen?
Well, I'd also like to see, we do have no truck signs at both sides, at the base and Grove Avenue. That's not really, we see trucks. Of course, there's the
kind of
oil
trucks?
trucks and the local propane trucks. But the big 18-wheelers, I came out to drive it back in June, came out, made my left, got over in my lane and just here comes an 18-wheeler in the middle of the road. Big. For that.
Coming from 95?
Coming from the light at Grove Avenue. Wasn't going very fast, but he was in the middle of the road.
How frequent is that happening?
Well, I'm 76, so I don't go out. I'm not driving anymore, but plenty of time.
The reason I ask is we might be able to do something with some partner agencies that might be able to address specific concerns at that time to target that enforcement. We could work with, right,
Trucks
yes.
would be wonderful. It would
But I would ask, maybe Lieutenant Linda can get with you afterwards and maybe find out those times so we could maybe work with DMV, Dawson, or somebody else to.
When we got this the solar sign, there was a box up on a telephone. And Mrs. Gullickson told me, "How were you taking pictures? Why is this place?"
That was the speed study box. It's a covert box that we use. We usually, every time we get a traffic complaint, we'll put that up first to try to get an idea of where the speeds are at. And then it tells us best times for enforcement so we can direct our efforts. I can definitely give you a copy of that study. It definitely showed a concern in elevated speeding, especially right at that corner. And since then, we have been up there quite aggressively, not in that exact spot. It's such a dangerous spot. We've kind of moved down a little bit. There's a pull off, and we kind of use this horizon that goes up to Fairview. And we have hit it pretty hard, and we have backed off. We try to hit it hard, back off, focus on other areas, and then we fall off again just looking for everything else. But I do feel for your concerns, and I do agree that's a pretty tough spot, a dangerous spot.
It is.
Do you have any other recommendations?
At this point, my biggest concern is the speeding, and then the truck issue. That's a new concern regarding military highways.
Perhaps enforcement of that.
I don't think lowering the speed limits is going to change anything. It's typically the military base rush traffic, time traffic. It's more of an enforcement.
We have a stop sign at Buster.
Yeah.
That was put in. People tend to roll. They get on that road. We have plenty of nips, you know, on the road if you walk it. Don't know what's going on. It's a little scary.
The only other thing I can think of is caution sign with a blinking light or something. But that would grab people's attention more. How effective it would be, especially after it's been there.
Greg's usually our phone friend, but I don't know if you have any thoughts.
We can take a look at moving sightlines. That way,
Yeah, it is
tough to
tough.
do. We can take a quick look. Improve sight.
Reasonable. So that's another, all the
Yes.
works we'll take a look at, see if, not offering any promises, might be just help with the geography of it, but we'll certainly continue on with our efforts, and maybe can you connect with her? Certainly addressing the truck issue.
The sign is there, you know, sign is at both ends.
Right.
Would really help. I mean, the road is so narrow.
Well, we can look at some commercial motor vehicle enforcement, which is a whole different tag. The folks that we can have. You can curb.
Anyone that wants to leave, we can show you out, let us know. You wanna stay for the meeting
Oh, am I done? I could go.
or? You can go for, yeah, I don't wanna make
Well, I
people
was gonna
stay.
catch up with
Yeah,
him and this. Oh, well.
okay. All right, I'll-
Thank you.
Absolutely. So,
I don't see any other old business, but under new business, we have 2024-757 discussion on placement of Pleasant Valley Road stop bar at Southern Route 12 intersection.
That's the one that's down near on the top of that area. That one. Or else it's the next item. He's the
Mr.
friend,
Gomes?
yeah, he's here for the community connectivity master plan.
Do we have anybody here for the Pleasant Valley Road
No.
South stop bar?
We've had a previous concern
Yeah.
too. Because what happens is DOT replaced the traffic signal at that intersection about 5 years ago. We located the stop bar back behind the Taco Bell Super 8 driveway.
I see people, yeah,
People
That's
used to
older.
stop there.
That's older than,
That's the old one.
Old.
that's how it should
And then they
You know,
put the new
it
signal and they
processed.
relocated it
be. You got a lot.
forward through 12. Now, people that are queued up at that right now block that driveway. I reached out to DOT to ask them why it was back. Was it 4 years ago? What their response was.
Let's make it official.
Yeah. Do we even need to do that? Is that within there? I mean, it's on Pleasant Valley South. That's
It
out.
affects
No,
the
it's
timing, right?
Still there, signals, we still have to get
Okay.
their approval. from South.
I would support that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a motion, I will contact
Recommend,
DOT.
yeah, recommend.
Second that. Both in favor, so that's cool. All right, we also have, folks here for our community, I'm sorry, 2024-758 Community Connectivity Master Plan Update. Director of Parks and Rec. You want to speak on this too, or
Yeah, I can just,
make an intro?
yeah, so right now the town. PHI to update. Plan. Part of the scope of it included new demonstration sites, which would either be short-term or small in scale to kind of show people what we could do to make it safe. Cisco is here to over various demonstrations, to make you aware and try to get a sense of what we would have to do through the traffic authority. We wanted to
Hello, Francisco, can you hear us all right?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yes, thank you. The floor is yours.
Very good. Well, Mark gave a brief introduction. I believe you all have copies of the concepts, so I don't need to share my screen. I'm not currently enabled to share my screen.
Yeah, we have them, we both have them.
Okay, so I'll just talk my way through. First of all, as Mark mentioned, the demonstration concepts are within the scope of the Complete Streets and Trails plan that we are in the process of developing. And the intent of the demonstration projects is to identify low-cost improvements that could be made either directly by the town or with volunteers that would provide improved pedestrian conditions, bicycle conditions, or provide some sort of traffic calming benefit that was beneficial to bikes and pedestrians. To that end, we've identified a few different concepts that we want to present to you. We are interested in doing a project as early as this September, coinciding with a workshop that we will be conducting. And we still need to discuss this with our Complete Streets Committee in another hour and a half or so. But right now, our top candidate for that project would be the traffic garden at the former Claude Elementary School. So I'll talk about that briefly, and I understand that project's probably a little outside of your purview as a traffic authority, even though we want to make sure you're aware of our intentions and our efforts, and there's, of course, plenty of coordination to do with DPW and whoever's responsible for managing that property. The traffic garden concept would be a place to teach children the rules of the road for bicycling. And at the Claude School, as you can see in the materials we provided you, there is a large cul-de-sac turnaround that was presumably used by school buses for loading and unloading. That affords us a great spot to essentially paint the pavement with a miniature road network that would enable training of children in a class-like setting with instructors, and also give them a place to play and practice on their own as well. So if this were a concept that everyone agreed we could move forward with, we would do a little further design on this, put some dimensions to it, and provide some basic specifications, and then recruit a bunch of volunteers and paint this out in a day, and using water-based paints that would likely be there for a couple of years. So we're not talking about epoxy type paints you might use on a regular roadway.
Question, that
Yes.
park all the way through there gets heavy usage in the evenings for lacrosse and football. It's completely packed.
Yeah.
I'm concerned with, it's one thing to have it for training, but I wouldn't want kids out there in the evenings trying to ride their bikes on their own. It's jam packed there, completely full.
Is it? Okay.
I was just there 2 nights ago. I had to go to the building the other night. If we had to wait to get, we couldn't get in.
And is the turnaround part as well actively used for vehicles parking in it, and as well as turning around?
Yeah, every bit of it.
Okay. These are important things to understand. It may be that we really only encourage use during instructional periods where it's closed off, and then from there on out, we would need to figure out how to address that with respect to mixing kids riding bikes and vehicular traffic. And then we're also receptive to ideas for other locations. We obviously need a large area of paved surface, and it's ideal that there's a minimal amount or no traffic there. So if there were any court surfaces that are otherwise not actively used for athletics, we'd be certainly receptive to modifying the concept to accommodate that as well. So in addition to that idea, we did have a few on-street measures, and these we don't expect to roll them out as early as September, but we do want to plant a seed with you, make sure it's on your radar, and that you're supportive of these measures when it does come time, hopefully to implement one or more of them. Yeah, so I'll walk you through those quickly, explain the purpose and what that will involve. Depot, Fitch, and Providence Court, traditional four-way, always stop, controlled intersection. It's a little wider than it and more open than it needs to be to accommodate the level of traffic that it does accommodate. And so a demonstration project would be to improve that crossing for pedestrians and calm traffic by providing bump outs that are delineated with pavement marking, potentially with some paint, colored paint, and also with PVC traffic delineator posts that are designed to be able to absorb impact as needed. Any questions on that concept?
Just curiosity, how do you affix those? Are they just bolted down to the asphalt?
Yeah, we use a butyl adhesive. You can bolt them down as well. They come with hardware for that, but typically we don't want to damage the pavement when we're doing a demonstration project. So we use a butyl adhesive pad that sticks incredibly well, but all you need is a flat shovel to pop it loose. And so when we do these demonstration projects, we typically try to get them in spring or summer or very early fall so that they're in for a few months, they're a proof of concept, and then we could take them out before winter.
Do you see any issue with that?
As long as we can pick it up.
Yeah, I like it.
Who's that? So you guys are just, snowstorms coming, you go, or they go, are they seasonal? Are they stay in there for certain times of the year? Or do you keep them in year
Yeah,
round?
as I mentioned, when we do this as a demonstration project, we typically take them out at end of November, early December before the plows get to them. That being said, these types of improvements can be left in all season long. And if a couple get knocked loose, they could be put back in place or replaced. We've done these before, mostly in the Hartford area. We had a project through CROG, the Capital Region Council of Governments, to do demonstration projects across the region. So we did several projects in Hartford and some of the surrounding towns. And in those cases, we left them in for a good part of the season, removed them before winter. And in a couple of the cases, the municipalities moved forward and did permanent improvements. Once we established that traffic flowed fine and that it successfully reduced traffic speeds and the neighborhood was comfortable with the changes, permanent measures were installed, which involved either new curbs, moving the curbs, permanent pavement markings, etc. The delineator posts typically aren't left in on a permanent basis because of the winter impacts.
Yeah, I see you've got your next one is at Crystal Lake Road. You're going to do something.
Correct. So part of our work is to plan for a continuous bicycle network across the town. And we're being very strategic in those efforts because not every roadway is ideal for bicyclists. We are doing our best to connect existing trails and off-street facilities. And so here we have Crystal Lake is a potential connection in our network, and that small map on the bottom right side of the page indicates how it would connect different types of facilities, including on-street facilities and off-street facilities. So it could be, as the network is built out, a really important linkage in that network. That being said, the network around it isn't fully in place. So we were tasked with identifying small projects that could be accomplished in the short term and the near term at a relatively low cost, and this was one of them, right? It's a very short segment of roadway, about a quarter mile or less. It has adequate width to accommodate bike lanes, just barely, but adequate width to allow for a couple 10-foot travel lanes and a couple of 5-foot bike lanes where the shoulders are currently present. And so the cost of that implementation would be relatively low. It would involve new pavement markings, a limited amount of signage. And this obviously is something not done by volunteers. It'd be done by a DPW or their contractor. Any questions on that concept?
The next one, it looks like you're back on Depot Road again.
Correct. So here we're absolutely. And in that area in general, we have an opportunity. There are a few different projects that present opportunities. Depot Road's an ideal candidate for a shared roadway. Basically, what a shared roadway is, and if you're not familiar, is just signing and providing pavement markings to indicate that bicyclists, that it's a preferred route for bicyclists, and to communicate to motorists to expect the presence of bicyclists and to accommodate them as necessary. And sure, Depot Road doesn't quite have the width necessary to accommodate bike lanes, plus there's some limited on-street parking demand by the residences. However, because it has very low traffic volumes, it's a good candidate for a shared roadway, which would involve some share row markings, pavement markings on the roadway, and a few signs. So it's a very low cost investment. Depot Road does provide an important link to Industrial Road, which brings us to the next concept. Industrial Road, a little different from Depot Road in that it very few residences, and it's all in the name, right? It's mostly, industrial. It's 30 feet wide, which is just wide enough to provide 5-foot bike lanes at the shoulders. And more importantly, could potentially provide a connection to a pathway that is located on the eastern end of Depot Road, as indicated in the aerial concept. So the whole idea is to be able to get bicyclists down Depot Road along Industrial Drive. And I said Depot Road earlier, I meant Industrial Drive. Along Industrial Drive and connecting them to a pathway which is fairly recently constructed that connects from Industrial Drive to a cul-de-sac where there's a pathway that runs for about a mile or so east of that cul-de-sac along the rail corridor.
Okay.
All right. And then finally, once again, we're looking for opportunities to do some traffic calming. And so while we don't have, and this is now at River Road, and is it bind loss or bend loss? Bind loss? Bend loss. Thank you. I forget which one. Okay. River Road and Bend Loss Road. We have an area, a little bit of pedestrian usage, some bicyclist activity through here. It's a nice scenic route. A real wide open intersection. As I mentioned, there's no pedestrian facilities, no curb ramps or sidewalks or crosswalks. However, it would benefit pedestrians in this area and bicyclists moving through the intersection to calm traffic. And we would do so by trimming some of the fat on this intersection. We did take a look at the turning movements required because it is a bit of a skewed intersection. So we want to make sure we're accommodating school buses and other single unit vehicles, whether it be fire truck or delivery vehicle. And even with the traffic calming measures we show, those movements would continue to be unrestricted by the proposal here. We had a very similar project in Simsbury, very similar type of intersection and configuration. That project, the intersection was actually skewed even more. We did demonstration project. It looked very much like this. It was in place for a few months. We did before and after, collected before and after speed data, and we showed that the measures were effective in reducing turning movement speeds and through traffic speeds actually by 5+ miles per hour, depending which one you were measuring. And consequently, the town in the very same year, they went and made those improvements permanent. So that's the last of the concepts. If you were supportive of these concepts, our next steps in the process would be to provide additional design detail, which is to dimension these so that they could be laid out in the field, and provide specifications for all the materials, the paint, et cetera, quantities, and a basic cost estimate on the improvements. As I mentioned earlier, we are interested in doing a community-involved demonstration project this fall and ideally in September. And once again, the traffic garden concept, assuming we can find an appropriate location, is what we're thinking right now would be the best fit for that. We are, as I said earlier, going to discuss that with our Complete Streets committee this afternoon.
All right, well, we appreciate your presentation. I see no reason not to support it. I don't support it. But I think the traffic authorities make that informed motion. We'll support the concept plan. Yeah. So that'll give you the ability to move forward. So thank you, Francisco. We appreciate your time with us this afternoon.
And thank you for making time on your agenda.
You're welcome.
All right, goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Next item is under new business is 24-759 road safety audit request of Route 1 and 12 from Ring Drive to Colgate Road.
Plains Park. Just past goals.
This came from the Complete Streets Committee. They asked the town to take advantage of a free service DOT offers. They'll come out to analysis, big corridors. There's an application online we have to fill out. Them and see if we agree with that report. But the legal traffic authorities don't. That from the state. So I will forward it to you, just I'll fill out the online form.
So the form will make a motion. Second it. We'll prove that. We'll do the authority to do what you need to do to make it happen. Okay. 2024-760 discussion of safe streets and roads for all. Solicitation for Route 184-117 is this.
There's another one that the COG had done a review of all intersections. There are safety issues throughout the whole region, and they identified this intersection as 1724 as one of the ones in town that should be improved. We had through the COG had put in for a Safe Streets for All federal grant. Do some left turn lanes on that 17. No dedicated left turn lanes. There has been the accident data in the last 5 years. The accident location. And so John, I think the council reached out to a couple of councils. Assuming this again with DOT, possibly.
Yeah.
take a look at potentially as a roundabout.
Was this
Serve as
just
a vendor.
talked about at a recent council meeting or something? Why is this sound
It's come up
familiar?
periodically. This has come up quite a bit.
So I did reach out to people, Tan, COG and Chief, when the traffic authority request roundabout. Did it for the roundabout program. There's a email something.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. Yeah. Supports it as well. I'll make that in a form of motion. As approved, we'll do that. But maybe you can walk. So we need to now forward something to DOT to consider for this.
And then let's say Mac, then we would be thinking of it.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. That concludes the business we have on our agenda. Are there any other items of business? So we can entertain a motion to adjourn. That will adjourn our meeting. I don't know if we still have anybody left online or not.